Hey, awesome. We're live. Um, we are going to be shortly doing an interview with Holly Casio, who is the cartoonist and zinester of several comics. I'm just gonna try and make this work. Yeah, make it very smooth. I think Holly's coming on board.
Hey.
Hey, oh that works so smooth.
Oh, nice. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good.
Has it been a stressful morning?
Oh man, I've just had so many technology fails this morning. I've been doing lots of union rep stuff and just getting really angry, but then internet not really supporting the way to be angry because the Wi-Fi keeps cutting off, so I can't even be effective with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a bit rageful, but it's fine.
Technology has a tendency to just be like, "Oh, you want to do something? It's not going to happen."
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes it's good. I've told people that my Wi-Fi is down quite a lot when I need to get out of a meeting or
Ah,
I don't want to do any work. But when you actually need to do something, it's like, "Ugh."
that's like the 90s version of like running a bath and going, "I can't hear you." Like, that's
It
so
is.
good.
No one can tell. It's like, oh, do you mind switching your video on for this Zoom meeting? It's like, oh, camera's broken.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's awesome. Um, yeah. So I've been spending like the last few days reading a bunch of your stuff. Um, how many Okay, well, first I wanted to ask you because I'm never really sure if some of your things you'd count as a zine and some of your things you'd count as a comic, and then I was wondering what's your definition of the kind of difference between those things?
What is a zine?
Yeah,
um, I don't know. I think I've only just recently started saying that some of the things that I make are comics because
right.
the world is ending. Why not? But prior to that, I think I just called them zines because I was a bit scared about, all my friends are really amazing artists and comic artists, like
Mm-hmm.
proper. So I'm not going to pretend to make comics. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I've always called them zines up until recently. But like looking back at the very first me and Bruce issue that I did, kind of a comic. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's all drawn and stuff. I mean, it's like stick figures basically, but
Is
it's
that
kind
the
of a comic.
first one?
That's the first
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's 100% a comic. Like, but I guess yeah, like I would regard that as a comic, but maybe is this issue two? I guess I'd regard that more as
As a
a
zine.
yeah. I always
Yeah.
see it more as like, is it more text heavy than drawings? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if
don't I
there is
don't
a
really have a good rule for it. Like some things that I know a feeling
oh no, it's
in my
froze on
gut.
your face.
No.
Okay, it's back.
Yay. Um yeah, I was just saying I don't think I have like a black and white hard and fast rule about what is a zine, what isn't a zine. I think the only thing that stopped me from calling things comics before is just imposter syndrome. But yeah, anything that's more like text heavy. So me and Bruce issue two would be a zine.
Yeah, awesome. How long have you been making zines and comics? Like, 'cause I think the earliest one I have is, I think it's dated like 2013, but I imagine you've been making stuff for a bit longer than that, right?
Yeah, since 1999.
Oh, holy shit. That's much longer.
I can see Selena's just logged on. And so I started making zines in 1999 around the same time I met Selena, and it was through like I guess like Riot Girl, indie pop, queercore music scenes that got me into like fanzines. And it was like prior to, I mean, the internet existed, but we didn't really have it in our house. So like zines were a way of actually just connecting with people.
Hmm.
So I lived in a very small town. Didn't really have any friends. Was queer, but I wasn't out. So like
Yeah.
zines were a physical, tangible thing that kind of came through your letterbox and said,
Hmm.
"There's more weirdos like you out there."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the thing I liked the most about zines is that back then they didn't need any kind of special skill to make them. Like you looked at a zine and was instantly like, I know how to make this. It's just
Yeah.
photocopying, black and white, collage. That's fine. I can do that.
That's the thing that kind of drew me into it all. Just like DIY music is, in the nicest sense, it looked rough and maybe sometimes a bit shit. And that was what I liked about it was there isn't this oh, I don't know, there wasn't this like secret, what's the secret answer to making this? It's like, oh, I can literally write this on a piece of paper and take it to like a Staples or something.
Yeah. And like once you realize there's no mystique, it's like, oh, you mean I can just have a go at stuff?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I think once you figure that out, it's amazing because it just it transfers into other areas as well. So like you were saying about music, I started making zines, and then because of that, just like have a go approach, it was like, oh yeah, I could just like get out a Casio keyboard and make some shitty cheap zines, shitty cheap music, and it's not going to matter too much. And you start to apply it to other areas and just think, well, yeah, I can just do stuff.
Yeah, there seems to be this kind of get up and go attitude, which uh, I'm sure in other like subcultures, like not just zine culture and DIY bands, but like, even like YouTubers, like that's a totally that YouTube only really started in like 2004, and no one knew. I don't even think like no one would have called themselves like a YouTuber, and now like that's like a paid profession.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Um, so you work at a library, right? But you also run a zine library. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a librarian at a big national art gallery. Starts with T, rhymes with Mitt, and there's a zine collection there that I started, and it's a really great zine collection. But I think I found it quite frustrating starting a zine collection in like a
Mm.
national institution, just because I think zines are very misunderstood, and often they're kind of used by the wider organisation to kind of get diversity points or like DIY punk points, and I
Yeah,
just found
yeah.
something quite frustrating. Um, and so I just really wanted to start like a queer zine library. And for years, I talked about it and looked into funding and realized it would be impossible to do it. And then realized I didn't actually need a venue. It could be a mobile thing that travels around and takes
Hmm.
different shapes each time. So yeah, the queer zine library started last year as a mobile traveling library, but sadly, we're just in storage at the moment.
Yeah. So how's that kind of been running for not this year, but like last year? Like, do you just book like a place to turn up and like people view it for that day or like a week or
A few different ways. Like we've reached out to organisations that we want to work with, whether it's like libraries or museums or more like community DIY spaces, and said
Mhm.
we've got this collection, we can bring it to you, and we can offer for anything from a day to 2 months. So you can't stay there for longer than two
Right.
months. And sometimes if it's a university or like a big organisation, we ask them to pay to cover our costs to bring
Yeah.
things to their space. And if it's a DIY space, we just say it's for free and we'll just hold it there.
Hmm.
Um, we've had our collections at like public libraries. We've had it at the LGBT Outside Project in London, which is a LGBT homeless community space and shelter. We've had it at like various queer workshops and places, and every residency we've done has been completely different. And
Wow.
we were just about to start like our summer tour when obviously COVID hit, and so it's
Huh.
now trying to find new ways to make the zine collection accessible when it's just literally sitting in a suitcase next door. It feels really weird.
Wow. Yeah. Um, so is that collection made up of just stuff you've gathered over the years, or do you kind of reach out to creators and say like, can you send me some stuff for this library?
Initially, it started with stuff that I'd been collecting for years. We've got about 600 zines in the collection so
Oh my
far.
God. Holy
Uh,
shit. Wow.
too many for this tiny flat in London. And but then once we kind of formed a collective, we kind of pulled other people's zines together because it isn't just me doing it. There's a collective of about 12 of us all together.
Right.
And then once word of mouth spread and we started like going on tour and taking the zines out, people were really excited about adding their zines to the collection, whether
Mhm.
it was like new zines that they were making now or like zines that they'd made years ago and were just sitting in a shoebox under their bed. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's growing all the time, and we are attempting to catalog them and make like a record online. So we're not scanning everything in and making a digital version of each zine, but we are capturing some information that says this is a zine, it was created by this person in this year, it's about these different topics. Here's an image of the zine. So you just kind of get a sense of who was making zines
Yeah.
at a specific time.
Yeah, like a loose overlook of the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool because yeah, I mean, I kind of like that not everything has made its way onto the internet, and like zines are like a total fine example of that. Um, because some things like yeah, they're just it feels sometimes like only you have a copy of that one comic or that one zine, and you just can't trace it. But it is cool that it is being documented in some way.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's really nice actually. Like some of the zines that I was collecting in the 90s have now like made its way into this library. With like I've
mhm.
then been put in touch with the original people who made it, and it's like, oh, you were like a pen pal from 20 years ago that I've not spoken to in 20 years.
Right.
Now I get to see what you're up to, and you're no
Yeah.
longer making zines. That's cool, but like you just kind of get these like links out, which are
Yeah.
amazing.
No, that's awesome. I remember that I think the first zine that I ever discovered, and I don't even think I knew it was like it's so weird to think there was a time when I didn't know a zine was actually called like a zine. It was just something I found like in a record shop, like near the front door. And I think it was someone from my hometown, and it was called Drink the Sunshine. I don't know if you've ever come across those.
Is that a Kaneki zine?
Um, I don't know. I don't even know who. Yeah, I can't think who made it. I think they were just about like traveling to like different places in England for the day and things like that, I think. But yeah, like I always wonder like what's that person doing now? Like did they know how much of an effect that had on a few people who just found it in like just a record show a record store? Um yeah. Anyway, I'm going to talk about some of your stuff. Um so yeah, I was like I always really feel that your stuff, especially the cool schmalls. Am I saying that right? Cool schmall?
Cool Schmoll, yeah, it's
Cool
taken
schmall.
from a Bratmobile song.
Um, they like in the best way, like they hit so hard. Like some of the things that you talk about in it is just like it could just like make me cry, but I love it because it really I just think they're absolutely incredible. And I really think like everyone should be reading your stuff. And I think the first time I met you, I don't even know if we really like chatted, but I saw you at like a Sheffield zine fair, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
holy shit, that's like Holly Casio. But I don't think I really talked to you or anything. And then I must have got hold of your stuff then, and I think Selena's placebo zine, Without You I'm Nothing, which is also incredible.
Such a perfect zine. Such an
Yeah,
amazing.
they're they're so good. Um, but yeah, so some of the topics you touch on, it's always really political. So, like in the third issue, you talk a lot about being fat and like eating in public with that, like at work, and also like the healthcare system and being fat and like the comments and like abuse that you have like documented in here is obviously just like it's unbelievable and disgusting. But I also think for everyone reading that, someone else will have a similar story, and I think it makes like fat people's stories feel a bit more valid because you feel like it's just you kind of going through those thoughts or like abuse or like slight insults from coworkers. Um, I just think they're like absolutely incredible. But it was in like I love them all, but I think in issue two, you have one called like BFF or like breaking up with your BFF, um, and it ends with you listening to like a like a lot of them like a Bruce Springsteen song.
Yeah.
um, but like my God, like that hits so hard for me. Just like yeah, when you break up with your best friend. Like, I really feel like you pick a lot of topics that are really universal, but I've never seen anyone write about them before. How do you kind of feel? It feels like you're putting your heart out onto the page. How does how does that kind of feel putting that out there? Like, do you feel vulnerable, or do you just feel like, well, this is my life. It's important to put it out.
Um, it's weird because like all my written zines, like text heavy zines, tend to be about a thing, like Bruce Springsteen or like Buffy
Yeah.
the Vampire Slayer or a fandom or something. And I'm not very good at like writing about myself personally, like about day to day stuff or
Hmm.
relationships or identity or anything like that. I find that really like too raw and vulnerable. But I thought if I draw things, it kind of creates this like distance. It's almost like it's not fictionalizing it, but it's like heavily editing a thing that might have happened to you, choosing some snapshots that you want to share with people rather than telling the full in-depth like word vomit. Like
Right.
here's some select panels that I'm letting you look at, and then putting it out there. And I think I was quite when the first issue of Cool Schmoll came out. I don't think Cool Schmoll issue 1 is super deep. I think issue 2 and issue 3 get a bit more emo.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
and then I think by that point I realized, oh yeah, it kind of feels all right. Like I was kind of testing the waters a little bit and
Hmm.
it doesn't feel too bad. But then I realized as soon as I put something out there, like my friends read it, like people who I know read it, people who I work with read it, and it feels horrible. I haven't got used to that feeling yet.
Yeah.
Um, and like particularly the last one that came out, issue 3, which is I think it's quite dark. I don't know how it feels to read it, but it's at a time when my mental health was not very good and was dealing with a lot of stuff to do with work. My OCD was very bad. I was very active with union stuff, and it all kind of
Yeah.
compounded in this really dark time. And it took me like a year and a half to put that comic together.
Hmm.
And I wasn't going to put it out. It was just like something that I'd written. It was never
Oh,
going to
no.
be for Paul Schmall, but it was just going to be a thing. And then I was like, oh fuck it, I'll just put it out. And actually, it was quite nice because I realised I didn't feel like that anymore. It was looking back at something that happened, and I'm
Right.
feeling better now. And that was like a really nice like end closure thing, which was really good.
Yeah, because like some of the stories in issue 3, like I don't know, you always see articles and it's like a cartoonist has made a story about this, and like it kind of goes viral and huge. Like I feel like the stories in here are like really worthy of that kind of attention. And like, I love like DIY stuff, but I'm also like, God damn it, like this needs to be like distributed like much better. Like that's
I
the
mean,
number one
cinema.
kind of bad thing about small presses. Like distribution is just the worst. Um, but yeah, like the
But it was
story.
good in a
Yeah,
way because I could control it a little bit. I think
yeah,
um, I was really guarded at first about who got to see it and who got to read it, and I think only until I felt comfortable did I print more issues. So it's quite nice that I
yeah.
get to just
You
have
get
like
to
a
control it.
handful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, because the story, there is a power in a union. Like it's like a really long story, which a lot of, especially in issue 1, and well, I guess number 2, like jumps to like 3 or 4 page stories. But like this one's like this one's like a long story. Um,
yeah. The longest thing I'd ever done, I think.
yeah, and it's like an incredible. There's so much like emotion with that. Like, it's really like solid storytelling. Um, how long does it kind of take you to go from like an idea in your head to drafting it to like actually finishing like a page or something?
Then when I was doing Cool Schmoll, like an embarrassingly long time, and I felt really validated actually because in one of your earlier comic chats that you were doing, you talked about how long it takes you to do things, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I felt really
Oh,
like there's something wrong with me. Like I can't do a page like in a day. It takes like weeks
right.
to like do a draft and lay it all out and then ink it. I was like, this for what it looks like at the end, you wouldn't know it had taken a really long time.
Mhm.
But I think since doing Cool Small issue 3, I'm less. Maybe it's because I was a bit more hung up about the content of it. I was like trying to like hold back a little bit.
Yeah,
But now I can do like a page within a day and it doesn't take
yeah.
as long.
I try and be less precious because when I did a comic called Olive, someone basically told me like really bad advice, and they were like, wow, they're like in the kind of illustrator world, and they're like, when you do your first book in the illustrator world, like it has to like make a splash. And Olive was the first thing I really was going like beyond like one page stories, I think. And that that advice was terrifying, and it took me 4 years to finish that, and it's not even a long story. And I've gotten better because I also now am less precious about the page because I also just think, well, I'll be dead soon, so I just need to like get this page done. That's the important thing.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
I've, especially during lockdown, now I'm putting stuff online, which I never used to do. I am just thinking, fuck it. Like, I don't really care anymore.
mhm,
Like, with Cool Schmoll, like the issue 3 that you're talking about, I wrote it a year after all those things had happened when I'd like made peace with it and then put it
mhm.
out. I didn't feel so precious about it. But now I'm just kind of got that same attitude where it's like, fuck it, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I'll make things on the fly and not worry about how they look or how they read or how other people might take them. It's, yeah, just, I care, but I also don't care as much anymore, which is quite
Yeah,
nice.
it's like as long as the story is good or important, it doesn't matter if like the lines are straight or like, I like we all pick up like published books by like HarperCollins, and like I find misspellings in them, and it doesn't make a difference to the story. Like as long as what I'm reading is worth being read, then it doesn't matter if like someone's hand looks weird holding like a glass or something. Um, yeah, I wanted to talk about your. I'm calling them your like quarantine comics just because you're kind of putting them out in this time. Is that something that you decided to do? Like, okay, now in lockdown, I have more time, or is it like inspiration is coming to you more because of the kind of political climate right now? Or is
I
it
think
just like a combination?
a little bit of both. Like, I never used to share comics online that much. And if I did ever share an image on like Instagram or something, it was something that had already been printed and published in a zine from the previous year. So I felt less embarrassed about it. But yeah, now I'm very privileged. I've been furloughed from work and I'm getting paid and I'm quite comfortable at home, so that I don't have that pressure. But I do go insane if I don't do something every day. I can't
Mm.
sit and do nothing. So I thought I'll draw every day, and some of the drawings I share online, some of them I don't. And but the first one I did, I was just really, really, really angry, and didn't know how to communicate that with people or communicate with my friends or communicate that with my family. And so the first comic I put, like a lockdown comic, I just put that online and then just said, okay, I'll try and do one, at least one a week.
Mm.
Um, but if it starts to feel like work, I'll stop.
They
'Cause,
are so yeah, like I had time to read your printed stuff beforehand, but it's been a busy morning. I didn't have time to reread the like web comics. Um, but they are so like there were things that you wrote about in these quarantine comics that I was like, oh shit, that's not just me that thinks that. Like when you're talking about the clapping and stuff like that. Um, I really felt like I'm a bad person if I say this. And then like I've seen the response to your comics by people has just been like incredible. And it's yeah, I think like if I get anything from your work, it is that just in the nicest way that like simplest of reminders of like you are not alone and like everyone has these thoughts.
which
Um,
is really nice because I think that's like the whole reason I started reading zines to begin with, was like you don't feel as alone. There's communities out there or people out there that are like you. Um, but I didn't start to make comics to do that. I think it's quite nice. Like it's always scary to put something out there and you're waiting to see if anyone's going to like kick off or just disagree with you. But then actually, a lot of the feedback I've had is like, oh yeah, I think that as well, and it stops you from just spiraling because you think, okay, there's somebody else who feels like that too. So it's validating to, like the NHS clapping one. I was really scared about putting that out because I knew my dad
yeah,
was going to see it, and my dad's a carer, and he told me like how much the claps had meant to him. So I was like, I don't want to shit on his
yeah,
parade. Like, fucking deserves those claps, but he also deserves a lot more. And We all do, and
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, it was a scary one to put out, but really nice that people connected with it.
It's like, well, yeah, because it's like, well, I get what people are trying to do with the claps, but also like that's not it shouldn't be a thing like, okay, we clap and that's we've done our part and that's where it ends. It's like, I don't know. I'm going off topic, but it's like you should be fucking angry about this and like
Yeah. I
yeah,
think people just feel
it's so,
helpless, don't they? Like it's all very well meaning and there's a lot of like good intentions behind it and
but it's
people
very patting yourself on the back with it.
and
Uh,
it's making martyrs out of care workers. I think there's like a we'll watch you kind of go down with this and we'll just applaud you as you do and there's something really sad and scary
yeah,
about that we're just applauding people just kind of sacrificing themselves.
yeah, yeah. It's really fucked up. Like I've not been outside whenever the claps have happened, but yesterday I could hear them and I saw a couple walking down the street and they were just walking, like not clapping, even though clapping was going on all around them. And then they saw someone outside their house clapping, so they were just walking down the street clapping. And I was like, you're only doing this because you feel that social pressure that
Oh,
you're a bad person if you don't clap.
it's turned into such a competition round here. It's like last night, I think it was like the last ever one that they're doing, and there were neighbours like shouting at each other, going, "Come on, you lazy bastards! I've seen
No.
you! I've seen you! I can see you behind the curtains. Get out of here!" Like people egging each other on and then shaming each other if they weren't actually doing it.
Yeah,
It's bonkers.
that's nuts. Yeah, people have been like, I didn't click that it was the same time when it was happening every Thursday, but like people were driving up and down the street like beeping, and I was like, that's
Mhm.
so dorky that you're like, okay, it's 7:45, I'm gonna get in my car and just drive around and beat my horn, and I'm 40 years old. Um, but yeah, these quarantine comics, do you think at some point you'll put them into like a collection of like the next cool schmoll or
I mean, maybe. I think maybe people will be sick. I think that's what everyone's going to do when this, if this ever goes back to normal and print shops open again, or we can start scamming photocopies in our offices again. I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are going to make lockdown comics, but maybe I'll share some of the ones I haven't put online yet. There's a lot of ones that I just either haven't dared to, or like I don't think they're good enough to put online, and
Right.
I think maybe I'll put those together somehow and maybe put a little compilation out at some point.
And is this, I've noticed they've started to go into watercolor, right?
Yeah, because I started doing grey comics because
Yeah.
I wanted to differentiate between like skin tones and have like different colours
Mhm.
in there. And the reason I did greys was just because I print everything in black and white as a zine. I'd never print colour. But now that I'm not thinking about making a printed physical object at the
Right.
end, it's like I don't have to make anything grey. And also the pens that I was using were running out. Like they I use as pro markers and they're so expensive to
Yeah.
replace. So I bought like a really cheap watercolor set from eBay and had a go with that. And it's really fun. I don't feel confident with watercolors yet. And maybe it's not the medium I'll stick on, but I'm really enjoying having a go with them.
Yeah.
They're
They
really
look
fun.
great. Like, yeah, it really yeah, I'm always very shy about using color. But also you have to like start somewhere and yeah, I think the watercolor looks great in your comics. Like,
Oh, thanks.
yeah. Is that your first time ever doing watercolor in anything?
Yeah, I didn't do art at school, so I've never actually done any watercolor
Right.
ever. And so to start off with, I was just like making a mess and didn't realize you needed watercolor paper and like ruined a bunch of comics because I sat down to just like la 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 la, and
Yeah.
it all just ruined. And I was like, oh yeah. So I watched some YouTube videos and did some trial and error and just figured out what colors I liked. And also, I think because I was putting stuff on Instagram more,
Mhm.
if you went onto my profile, it was just like a sea of grey and I don't
Right.
really think of myself as a grey person. I'm quite a
Right.
colourful person, so it felt weird that my comics didn't really reflect who I was in that kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
online world.
Yeah. No, it's inspiring. It kind of makes me feel like I should stop being so scared to just work in, well, not even like gray, just black and white pen all the time.
I mean, your golden apples, that must have been like, how many of them did you have to colour in by hand?
Yeah, that's insane because that is over like uh, I did the maths once and I never did it again because you know when you don't want to really like think about it, but that is over like easily over 1,000 um, apples to hand color with
Yikes,
a
that's
gold pen.
dedication.
So I just
But
do like
it's so
20
good.
at a time. I don't yeah, there's probably I can't remember if I must have printed 200. So yeah, I just do a few at a time because I don't want to go like insane from doing all of them. Um, I'm going to talk about Bruce Springsteen soon. Uh,
Finally, the reason why we're all here.
uh, but um, yeah, with your comics, do you ever kind of think like, okay, at some point, do you have plans for like not just doing cool schmoll? Like, do you ever have one like I want it to be like a 40-page thing about this one subject? Or do you think you'll kind of always just work in like a series of cool schmoll for now?
I think I'll keep Cool Schmoll up because it's nice to be able to say periodically I'm going to do some autobiographical stuff. But I did
Mhm.
at the beginning of lockdown, I also started work on the issue 5 of Me and Bruce, which is going to be roughly a 60-page comic.
Oh wow.
And um, I'm learning as I go, and didn't realize how hard that was to do. Because like when I do a zine, it's so quick. I barely spell check when I do a zine. I just like write some words out. I
Yeah.
stick it all down. It can be done within a week, and it's really nice and freeing. I've never done something which has taken so much time and effort, and even then, when you spend so much time on it, it isn't bloody finished. So I'm finding it really hard to like pace myself and like block it out. Okay, I'll do like a 2 hours of drawing today, and that'll
Yeah.
be like half a page done. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's irritating, but I'm quite excited to do something a bit bigger.
No, that would be really cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And yeah, comics are like always a thing you forget how long they really take. Like, because it looks so. If you can read a page in 1 minute, it must have taken 1 minute to draw the page.
Exactly. It's so irritating. And there's like some panels where I've just gone, oh, it's fine. I'll just do stick figures. It's all right. And I'll come back
Mhm.
to it. I'm like, no, I have to do this properly. Or like, not properly, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
have to at least give people like arms and legs or something.
yeah.
Um, although never shoes because no one, I think all my comics crop off below the knee because I can't draw feet or shoes.
Right. Okay. Um, so yeah, I have a lot of Bruce topics that I want to bring up. I mean, some I already know the answer to because I've been reading these for a while, but um, yeah. So you discovered Bruce. You kind of think like your first time is maybe you have it in a diary that you put it in like your top 10 or 20 albums of all time, but then
Yeah,
you
in
also
like
think
1998 or something like that.
and you think maybe your dad played greatest hits or he kind of had it around in the house or something.
I thought like a myth that I held on to for a really long time was that I discovered Bruce Springsteen because my dad played it when I was growing up. But actually, I've talked to my dad, and he only owned the greatest hits, and he never played it because he didn't like Bruce Springsteen.
Oh wow.
So I don't know where I've got that from. But I think at some point I used to go to this car boot sale every Sunday with my dad, and there'd be a record stall at the car boot sale, and I just bought random records like in the way that you do when you're 8 years old and
Yeah.
records cost 50p. And one of the records that I bought was Darkness in the Edge of Town by Bruce Springsteen. And I guess that's where it started, but I'm not actually sure.
Yeah. And so kind of at what age to now would you say you've kind of been like I'm not just a occasional listener, I am like Bruce Springsteen like number one fan.
I think it became like the level of obsession that I have today is probably like mid 20s, I guess. Like it's always just been, I've always liked him, I've always had his records, but I think mid 20s when I started like really connecting to his lyrics and appropriating them beyond what he intended them to be about. And that's when I got my Bruce tattoo and yeah, started following around on tour and doing stupid things like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's I think like my obsession like yours with Springsteen, mine's The Cure, and I've been like following them for like such a long time, and it is you talk about it in your comics like kind of friends saying like you're really over the top for like just wanting to talk about Bruce all day long. Um, and it is a really hard thing to talk about a band that has like impacted your life so much without just sounding like a total nerd. But
Yeah.
um,
And I try not
there's
to.
quite a few documentaries though about like Bruce Springsteen and his fans though, right?
Yeah. There's is it Springsteen and Me or Springsteen and I or something like that that
Yeah.
came out a few years ago that I was considering like at that point it was like send us your submissions if you want to be in the documentary. And then I was like, I don't need a documentary to prove that I'm a Springsteen
Yeah.
fan. But I definitely get that feeling of um I bore people when I talk about Bruce Springsteen, so I try not to. And that's the reason why I started making the zine in the first place, to be honest.
Right.
Like me and Bruce came out in I think it's 2010, so it's like 10 years ago now. And I printed 10 copies and I gave them to my friends, and that was it. That was the total print circulation. And it was
Wow.
just to kind of explain to my friends who were like, you don't like Bruce Springsteen, but you probably love another thing, whether it's like a band or a musician or
Yeah.
a book or a pop star. And like I connect with other people that have obsessive personalities. Like
Totally. Yeah.
one of the panels that I've just drawn for the comic at the moment is a panel of me just sitting there going, I wonder what it's like to like things a normal amount because I
Yeah.
don't know what that is like. I've never had that.
Yeah.
So the first issue I just gave to my friends to be like, this is me and my weird obsessions. I hope you connect with it. And then a few of my friends passed it on to their friends, and then they passed it on to their friends. And I suddenly realized that maybe other people, even if they don't like Bruce Springsteen, they like a thing, and maybe other people would connect to a zine if I published it and
Right.
made it more widely available. And then, yeah, just kind of spiraled from there.
So, what are your other kind of like obsessions that you have if it's not, I guess like obviously zines, you have 600 and Springsteen. What else are you kind of, I know you're a
Oh
big fan
man.
of My Chemical Romance as well.
Oh, I can't even talk about it because like next month they were supposed to come and play the UK and we had tickets and it's not going to happen. But yeah, like My Chemical Romance is my other big massive obsession. I'm a really big Buffy fan. Like I used to be in a Buffy band. X Files was a really big thing for me when I was younger as well.
Right,
Just
right.
I latched onto things and like use that pop culture or that person or that film or that book to kind of make like meaning from like this is my life now until something else comes and replaces
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I've kind of gone in waves of that. Like I used to be really like addicted to like scrapbooking and crafting and like collecting little just cute like foreign stamps to like glue into a scrapbook or like little miniature dolls or something like that, and then kind of like move on to the next thing. Like, do you like try and collect Springsteen albums in like every format or like imports or anything like that? Have you stumbled into that territory?
No, I don't collect all of his albums. There's some albums that I refuse to buy.
Oh, really?
I'm not going to buy Western Stars. I'm not going to spend money on that.
I've still
Uh,
not checked it out.
it's
Oh
not good.
no.
Um, but I got a lot of bootlegs. I think that's the thing I got really addicted to. Like once I'd exhausted his back catalogue because he's got quite a few albums, I was like, I need more of this.
Hmm.
And I always associate Springsteen with like seeing him live. I've got all these amazing memories and experiences from being in a live setting and seeing him. So I just wanted to get more bootlegs and listen to like songs that aren't on albums and things like that. But not in a dickhead way, like, oh, I can't believe you don't know this song that was never released that no one's ever heard of. Like,
Yeah.
there are lots of Springsteen fans like that, and I hate them.
Yeah. It's such a big world to get into, and I think I'm also there's like a sub obsession that I fall into that I don't intentionally fall into. I seem to fall into enjoying bands that have a stupid amount of a back catalogue. Like they'll have at least 400 to 600 songs. Um, and just entering that world is so daunting. Like Springsteen, the Mountain Goats. There's just so many. If you were to kind of I know Racing in the Street is your like number one song, and is Darkness on the Edge of the Town, is that your favorite record?
Yeah, because it's like the emo one. It's like the really, it's really angry. It's really sad. It's a little bit horny. It's got like all the things I really love about Springsteen in like one album. Love
Yeah.
it.
I will I will be playing it tonight then in your honor.
You should like the best way to do it is like lay down in the dark, nothing else around you, and just like feel your feelings.
Like
It's so
when I did that comic about Nebraska, um which I mean, yeah, I'm going off topic, but like obviously that album's incredible. It was never toured. It's the only album he's never toured, and it's really impossible to like find any info about that album.
yeah, it's
It's
like a
like it
myth.
never got released. It's like a Mandela effect, and then years later, everyone knows it came out, but there's no like you can find like two reviews online from the time. Um, but in my research for that, Bruce, I think he says something like music that sounds best with the lights off, and it's so true.
Yeah, it's yeah. I think a lot, especially like Bruce's like acoustic albums. I can't listen to on the go. They just need to actually just sit and listen to them with the lights off.
Yeah.
But speaking about like Bruce Springsteen myths, have you heard about like the lost, forgotten hip hop album?
No.
Like I say hip hop, it just means he had like some drum beats and samples and
Okay.
loops and things like that. Like around the time he did Streets of Philadelphia, that kind of like lo-fi beat
Right.
through it. He did an
Oh,
entire album, um, and it's in the vaults. No one's ever heard it. It's legendary, and it's something that like everyone has said. Like if you ever do like another version of tracks where you release some like
right.
unreleased material, they want the hip hop album. And I was like, I would love the lost hip hop
Yeah.
album.
So that's at least. I mean, yeah, I kind of imagine he's someone who has like seven unreleased albums because there's also the Electric Nebraska, which
Yes.
has still never seen the light of day, and that's creeping up to like 40 years since that album came out. I
Yeah,
think.
every time there's like an anniversary of Nebraska, there's lots of like fan talk about maybe this will be the time, maybe he's going to release it this year, or like we'll get like at least a couple of songs from
Yeah.
Electric Nebraska, but nothing so far. Like I would love to know what's in his. I would love to be the archivist of the Bruce Springsteen vaults. Like that
Yeah.
is somebody's job. They'll
Yeah.
have to catalog all of his songs and look after them and preserve them. Like that is the
Yeah.
dream. Just to find out what shit is in there because not everything he touches is golden. There's a lot
Yeah.
of bad.
I mean, there's one song. I'm trying to think what album it's on, but it's called like 67 channels and there's nothing on or something. It's so
Channel
bad.
so bad. I think that and do you know Queen of the Supermarket from Working on a Dream album.
No, no, I don't.
It's I mean it's pretty terrible. It's a song about like falling in love with somebody who works in a supermarket and the desire down a shopping. Yeah, it's so weird, and just not good. But I remember,
Yeah.
I think was it Rolling Stone reviewed the album, and they said the saxophone solo or the guitar solo
Right.
in the supermarket was as good as the saxophone solo in Jungle Land,
Oh
and
wow.
really, I'm obviously still holding on to that like
Yeah.
10 years later.
It's so weird because, he clearly has an ear for what's good, but then he'll chuck in some like real like is it the closer on Ghost of Tom Joad?
Oh
Oh,
God, yeah, it's so shit. It's so bad. It's um, like life is like a box of chocolates and like all
yeah,
these like sentimental phrases that he thinks are really
so bad.
funny.
And
And
it's like, what are you doing? It's like ending Nebraska just like with some
the
like
joke
goofy like
song,
country banjo song.
it's terrible. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a few like that where you just think you need an editor or you need a producer that's going to stand up to you and say, "Let's let's leave this one off, Bruce.
yeah,
This one isn't it."
yeah. And yeah, you've met him once or a couple times,
Oh,
or
we're old friends now. I'm sure he's watching this.
does it like I'm actually wondering, do you think he actually really recognizes you when he sees you?
I thought he did one year because I did a really stupid thing and I got a credit card with the sole purpose of using it to follow him around on tour. And I went to like 8 shows in one year and did that thing where you queue up overnight, like to get to the front and be on the barrier. For some reason,
Hmm.
it was really important to me. In hindsight, I'd just gone through a really bad breakup, so I now see what was happening. But at the time, it was just super important for me to
Yeah,
do
it was
that.
everything.
And I was convinced at one, like, because he does recognize people in the audience, he points them out and he says, "Oh, nice to see you again." And I'm convinced he did that to me. I'm convinced he pointed at me during uh, Jenny, Don't You Lose Heart in Cardiff in Wales in 2014. I'm convinced he pointed at me. I don't know if that's
I
true.
believe it. I believe it. Have you ever tried to kind of put like one of your zines in his hand or to one of his people, or is there like a PO box somewhere?
I, it's, I think I would die if he'd read my work. Also, I don't think I'm very nice to him sometimes in my work. And I also don't like the idea that he would read my work and not agree with it. Like, I have
Mm,
this really nice idea that if we ever met, we'd just become instant best friends and he would love me and never disagree with me and think I'm
yeah,
amazing. So the idea that he could read a zine that I've written about him, where I tell everyone what I think his songs were about, and
yeah,
he's
yeah,
reading going, nah, this is just a song about racing cars on a street, love. It's
yeah.
nothing to do with your dad. I think that would crush me. So I don't think I want to meet him properly.
I do wonder though because like everyone makes their own ideas of what a song's about, and it can be about like fixing cars up, but like his songs really do have this. It's so interesting. He's actually the only singer songwriter that's made me actually go from like writing songs to actually appreciating the craft of songwriting and actually try and take it apart and understand it because there is this kind of mystique to it. Um, like how I always wonder with Bobby Jean what that's really about because for years
Oh, that's about
that's what it is.
Stevie for sure.
Yeah, like I just there's so many different ways I interpret that song. Like I do wonder like is it sometimes meant to like touch on suicide or I don't know if I'm just reading into that.
I think yeah, it's I think because his songs are like these characters, and they're usually about like it's never just like a love song. It's always quite ambiguous.
Yeah.
And so I've always read Bobby Jean, for example, as like a friendship breakup song. And I'm so grateful for that because you never see friendship breakup songs
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's such a powerful like every time I've seen that song live, I've always cried. But then it's just the thing that once Bruce Springsteen writes a song, it doesn't really belong to him anymore. So I've up until a few years ago, I'd never been to New Jersey. Like when he sings about these very specific places and very real places,
Mhm.
I'm sitting like at the time, like in Manchester, being like, I don't know what New Jersey looks like. This is about me, and this is about my dad, and this is about the things that I do know about. And I like the fact that Bruce doesn't get a say in that. It's
Yeah.
mine now.
It's so interesting because he is, like so many people, so many passing fans or like people who just casually listen to the song Born in the USA, like totally see it as this patriotic thing. And whenever I loosely like think of Springsteen as like a kind of musician, I always think of it as it's such an American thing. How can I be into this thing that I've no like relationship to? And then I'll just put like I'll put tracks on or something and just be like, fuck, like this is the best songwriting ever, even though it has nothing to do with my life. But yeah, you can put your own kind of interpretation on it.
Totally, I love that. I love the fact that you make the songs whatever you want them to
Yeah.
mean, and you can do that with anything. Any art doesn't actually belong to the people who
Mhm.
makes it, but I love the fact that there is this really big thing of like a lot of queers really appropriate Bruce Springsteen and kind of wade through like the macho masculinity, like all American man,
Yeah.
Americana of it all, like kind of wade through that and go, no, the heart of it is a thing that I give a shit about, and that's mine now. I love
That, that stuff you wrote in issue, yeah, in issue 4, it's almost like I guess like a poem. Like I want Bruce Springsteen to be queer. I want Bruce to be a hot butch girl. Like that, I was just like, man, that was so good. Yeah, like that was. It reminded me of I want a dyke for president.
that. It's not as helpful.
I don't know. It's up there.
I
Um,
think it's when he started wearing like a few years ago. He started wearing like waistcoats and shirts that were rolled up to his, and he just reminds me of like a proper silver fox, like butch lesbian academic type
Academic, yeah,
person. And I
exactly.
was like, oh my god, I'm Bruce is like the hottest he's looked in years, and I'm
Yeah,
having some complicated feelings about that. And I'm like, no, it's not that complicated. He just looks really hot.
yeah. Well, when he does finally tour the UK, like we will definitely go.
Yes, please, because I've only ever seen Bruce on my own, except for a few years ago when I made my partner come, and that didn't work out so well. So yeah, it'd be nice to see Bruce with some other Bruce fans.
I would like honestly, that's like a hand on my heart, like packed. Like if I'm gonna see anyone, if I'm gonna see Bruce with anyone, it's gotta be Holly Casio. Yeah. Um, we're almost wrapping up, but um, yeah. So how do you kind of feel about, because you talk in your comics about being in a band and then kind of like the band breaking up and also going to gigs and like having gig nerves, but also like shitty sound, man. Like, do you think you'd ever join a band again? Because it's such a whirlwind of emotions being in a band.
Yeah, I go through phases of really missing it.
Yeah,
When the band broke up, it was like a proper breakup. I was like, and I was the one that broke it up as well, but I was gutted. I was so heartbroken, and I think I've always felt that way about any band I've been in. Like the end of bands can get really messy and can get really horrible, and
mhm,
obviously the people that you play with, like other bands and other venues and stuff, you've got all, it's like a real breakup because you've got all these memories and people will pick sides and it's really kind of murky.
yeah,
But the actual like thing of playing music, I miss, and just making up a pop song. And I think since the last band ended, I've got out my Casio keyboard a few times and gone back to basics because prior to the last band, I'd never played guitar. It was always like I made Casio DIY pop music, and it's like I've not done that in about 10 years. Let's have a go at that. So that might be something that I do.
is any of that like out there in the world? Like, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I think Cutie's Attack is like a band that I used to be in. That's I think our band camp is still up there.
Cool.
Um, I was in a Harry Potter punk band called the Shrieking Shack Disco Gang. Our band
Oh,
camp is
cool.
still up there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And my band Smarty Pants. I don't think we ever put anything. I think it was like before band camp, but
Right.
maybe we've got a MySpace. I don't know. I'll have to like dig that out and see if there's anything
Yeah,
online. But
yeah.
actually, a lot of the bands I've been in don't have any recorded music, so never ended up anywhere. But I still get the songs in my head, like songs from 20 years ago that you can't listen to anymore, just like stuck in my head all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, again, like the stories you talk about with the band breaking up, like being in a band that like called it a day after 5 years is there's just so much. It is like yeah, like a real breakup, and it's like grieving this kind of thing that's the end. But
Yeah.
I also felt so silly for being like, oh my God, this thing's over, and I'm so like upset about that. And you also kind of be like, well, now I'll have more time on my hands, but also you're still so busy. And I think we're both, um, we like have to keep like super busy and have like I write lists every day, like
Oh God,
15
yeah.
things, and I don't have to get them done, but like if I can tick off, like the majority, then I'm like, okay, I'm not a piece of shit today.
Yeah, it's a really hard thing to unlearn. It's not a healthy thing, but yeah, I'm the same. I need something to do. And part of the reason why the band broke up was like I'm so burnt out and I have no time to do this. And then yeah, I had this idea that once I quit the band, I'm gonna just make stuff and do all these things and relax. And none
Hmm.
of that has happened since the band
Yeah.
breaking up. So it means I might as well just be in a band and carry on, but with I guess with no pressure, like to do anything. I mean, with Kinky as well, when you broke up, like you did like a farewell tour and everything, which must have been kind of more of a like we just kind of broke up and didn't tell anyone and
Yeah.
then kind of like slipped out the back door. But with you lot, you did like a farewell tour. That must have been really weird to have done that and like say goodbye in such a public way.
It was, and that London show we did was like honestly, I think the best show we ever did. And yeah, like, obviously that's a dream that you'd end a show with people like singing your songs back to you. but also like, oh man, like why are we breaking up again? Like this is stupid. But I guess the door is never like fully closed on that. Like we all still like I'm glad we're not a band that kind of we don't like we're all friends, like we don't hate each other or anything, like thank God. So I guess the door's always open on that. Um yeah, I'm gonna ask you one more thing because I'm always worried that it's gonna suddenly cut off. Um so this is like a big I feel like maybe it's too open-ended a question, but we kind of talked about it earlier, but what do you want people to get out of like the work you make, like the comics or the zines? Like, what do you kind of want people to overall kind of take away from that stuff?
Um, oh God, that's a really hard question because honestly, I don't think I think about it too much when I make something and put it out
Right.
there. But I think kind of what you were saying, that whole thing about I just want someone to go, oh, me too. It's like validation for me almost. It's
Mhm.
like I'm not the only one going through this, or I'm not the only one having this like weird random thought.
Mhm.
Like the comic that I put out last week, which was about OCD. I'm really careful with what I tell people about my OCD because some of the stuff that some of the like weird manifestations of it are a little bit too weird to talk about. But every now and then I'll kind of mention it, and
Yeah.
it's so honestly like so powerful to have someone say, I've done that and I've had that and I know exactly how that feels
Yeah.
because when you're in the middle of it, it feels so isolating and like nobody on this planet
Yes.
understands what that's like. So yeah, I guess maybe deep down that's something I'd like to get out of it, but no, honestly, I don't think I have any really big like deep
Yeah.
political aims.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love them, and I hope you do keep making stuff, and um as you kind of gauge the reaction of people's stuff to your comics, I hope you keep opening up because honestly, like every time you do, it's not for me even just like, oh, like me too. It's also like it's really validating to I think a lot of people's mental health and what they're going through. Like I think they're like really important comics, Holly. Like I really want like everyone to read your stuff. I think it's incredible.
Oh, thank you. And you too. Everyone should go read Mama's comics because I get the same things from your comics like that. Just feeling seen and feeling like your day to day is like a thing that someone else just kind of see yourself mirrored back is such a powerful feeling.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh, thank you. But yeah. Um, what are your plans for the rest of the day?
I've got um I've got some Ben and Jerry's in the freezer,
Nice.
and I'm going to carry on drawing this Bruce Springsteen comic because I'm actually really enjoying it.
I can't wait to
Yeah,
see that.
I don't
Do you
hate it yet.
do you have a plan in the distant future when that would be out or
Well, I was going to try it because it's the 10th year anniversary of the first Me and Bruce coming out this
right?
November. So I was like, I'm going to finish it for November. And then it turns out drawing a 60-page comic is slow.
Yeah.
So maybe next year.
Yeah. Okay. I can't wait to see whatever you do next. And yeah, I love the quarantine comics.
Oh, thank you. Let's hope we get to see Bruce Springsteen together soon.
That would be incredible. Yeah, that's the dream. Bruce Springsteen. After quarantine ends, he better fucking tour.
The thing is, he's getting on now. This is what I'm really worried about. He'll tour, but will he tour with the E Street Band? Will he be able to slide on his knees like he used to be able to? Who knows? Time's ticking.
Yeah. I'd take anything. Again, The Cure, like Robert Smith's hella old, but they still put on like 3.5, 4 hour shows. There's these occasional oldies who can just really pull it off.
Yeah, whereas I get tired after like 10 minutes of work, so I don't have that work ethic.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Holly. It's
Thank
been
you. This was really
really fun to
fun.
talk to you. Yeah. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon and uh
Yeah.
I'll 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 listen to Bruce Springsteen all day today for you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. I'll do the same.
Awesome. I'll speak to you soon. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.